And Metro United Way is pleased to be partnering with JCPS to bring this event forward for all of us. So right on to things, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce the superintendent of what I firmly believe is fast becoming the finest major urban school district in the nation, Dr. Donna Hardens.
Thank you, Mr. Tolan, and thank you also to Metro United Way for hosting this special event with us, and to all of you, our valued educators and community partners, for joining us. I want to recognize Jefferson County Board of Education Chair Diane Porter, and Vice Chair David Jones Jr. Thank you for being here. And I think Board Member Haddad is either here or on her way. So, and we also have, it's a special honor to have Dr. Tommy Floyd, who's the Chief of Staff for Dr. Terry Holliday. The Kentucky Department of Education is a valued partner and is really integral in the success of the Jefferson County Public School system. So help me in welcoming Dr. Tommy Floyd. Today and every day, the attendees in this auditorium are united by our belief that every child can succeed. That is why we advocate for the most influential change mechanism in society, education. Knowledge opens doors, breaks down barriers, and illuminates the darkness. All children deserve that power. Yet we know some have the supports needed to focus and capitalize on learning, while others do not. In these cases, schools, dedicated educators, and community partners must bridge the gap. This takes unparalleled heart and steadfast determination. It takes the ability to see beneath the surface of a student's words and actions. It takes refusal to give up on a child or let the child give up on themselves. And above all, it takes the closely held truth that every child can succeed. When we believe that, we never ask ourselves why we are here or what we are doing. We are making a difference. We are giving all children the chance to reach their potential. I am proud to say that our JCPS educators, many of who are with us today, embrace this philosophy. That is why every student group increased proficiency for the second year in a row. And it is why our district continues to move and improve on our path to our relentless vision that all JCPS students graduate prepared. Together we gather with leaders in our community to hear from a fellow school leader, a special guest who shares our beliefs and has seen their transformative power firsthand. Without further ado, here is a video telling us more about our colleague in equitable education, Principal Salome Thomas-EL.
Well, as you've seen partly, our special guest this morning has been a teacher and a principal since 1987, starting out in his hometown of Philadelphia, and he's been changing the odds for kids ever since. A highly regarded speaker, he's also a husband, a father, an author, and, in the words of Dr. Oz, a superstar educator who is revolutionizing how we teach kids. Please join me in extending a warm Louisville welcome to a school principal who is clearly a man of principle and a real champion and advocate for educators and for all of our youth, Principal L.
Folks, I didn't come all the way to the South for you to greet me the same way my students greet me every morning when I get off the school bus. Even you young people. Let me go back and tell my students that I met some young people who really love and care about me. So let's try that one more time. Good morning. Good morning. There we go. There we go. See, we can no longer afford to be a tiny spark for children. That we have to believe and understand that these children need us today more than they ever have. And seeing them in the audience this morning just helps to bring home, for me, the importance of the adults and the role that they play in in my life and the lives of every adult, who is here today when we were young. It is an honor and a pleasure, and I think the most important thing that I've taken away so far from my time here since arriving yesterday is that this is a community of people who are obviously connected, who work together, who collaborate on behalf of our children and our communities. And I've been to many places, I've been to many countries, I've been to many states and many cities, and that doesn't happen everywhere for children. And so I want you to truly understand how powerful it is to know and understand that we have that connection, the love, to be able to say to our children that we loved you before we ever met. And it's powerful for a young person who may not have ever heard those words before from someone who cares about them, but to hear that from a person who they're just meeting for the first time. I want to thank the United Way for connecting me to this awesome audience and community. I don't know what my life would be like without the United Way. I want to thank, there's so many people to thank, but I only have about 30 minutes to talk. And my students tell me that I'm more like a preacher than a teacher, right? And one thing you'll notice is that many things I say will rhyme. And you young people, you heard Sugar Hill Gang, and you heard some, you're probably sitting there like, why are we listening to this old school music? But the idea is if we can get back to the way we were, the way our lives were, the way our community was, when we listened to music like that. If we can get back to the family becoming the focus of everything that happens, that education becoming important in every home, every school, and every community. For children that have those responsibilities, I think if we could really go old school, I think we see a shift in what is happening in our community. And I'm sure the young people, when they heard that you had a special guest coming, and they heard the music playing, they probably thought one of their favorite rappers was coming. Didn't they? They thought 35 Cent was walking in the building. I'm gonna listen. Can I walk away from the podium? I have a microphone that works the way. See, young people don't like that, and we can move closer to them and still be able to speak with authority. But I'm sure that they thought, when they heard the music, that some famous rapper was coming in this room. I'm sure Big Kim is coming. I'm sure Snoop Cat is coming. But it's not. Did I get those names wrong? She said, yeah, you did. What is his name? 50 Cent, right? Makes millions of dollars and calls himself 50 Cent. You see, young people, what I want you to understand is that you didn't invent rap. We did it. You ruined it. Right, amen, right? One of the most famous rhymers and rappers is one of your native sons, Muhammad Ali. Everything he said had to rhyme. Even when he was fighting, the punches rhymed. Because we understood that for us, that genre of music was a way to send a positive message. For us to communicate with one another. We have rappers rapping about, it's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Right? You date yourself. We have rappers rapping about going to college. I'm DMC, in the place to be. I went to St. John's University. And since kindergarten, I acquired the knowledge. But after 12th grade, I went straight to college. I think we'd be okay with our kids listening to music, encouraging them to go to college. We had rappers rapping about friends. How many of us have them, right? Friends is a word we use every day. Most of the time we use it in the wrong way. You can look the word up again and again, but a dictionary doesn't know the meaning of friends. And if you ask me, I couldn't be much help, because a friend's somebody you judge for yourself. Some are okay, they treat you real cool, and some must think your kindness for being a fool. You like to be with some because they're funny. Others come around when they need some money. Some you grew up with around the way, and you're still real close to this very day. Homegirls through the summer, winter, spring, and fall. And then there's some you wish you never knew at all. This list goes on again and again, but these are the people that we call friends. That's the music we listen to. No violence, no profanity. It was all about vocabulary. It was all about positivity. It wasn't about Nicki Minaj, it was all about Nickelodeon, right? It wasn't about Lil Wayne, it was Thomas the Train. And so we want to move back, but paying respect to your culture and your world, but getting you back to where we know you need to be. And I know I'm preaching to the choir today, folks, but the choir needs to be inspired too, right? Very true. And so in my limited time, because they only gave me 30 minutes to speak, so in the next 29 minutes, I want to make sure that I thank the United Way, that I thank all of our partner organizations, but more importantly, I want to make sure that I thank Jefferson County. Right, I want to thank your superintendent. I know we have some principals in the house. Principals, where are you? Principals, can we make some noise, right? I know we have some, and you know, principals, as a principal myself, it is so hard to get away and do what we need to do. So I was so impressed when the superintendent, United Way, told me that the principals would be here. Now I'm hearing from assistant principals who are not happy because they have to stay back at school, right? But as a former assistant principal, I say get in line, right? Because that's what we do. We hold down the farm. But also there are other staff members from schools, any school staff where can we recognize you? If you're a staff member from school, I know there were some counselors here and other folks. Let's give them a big round of applause as well. Teachers. So important for us to make sure that we recognize you because there's so many people who are running away from helping our children. And last night at dinner with the major, and I had this powerful dinner with some major folks here in the community, and I've already called home and said I've got to find a way to come back. But it's for me to think about, we talked about the importance of parents in our community. And I want you young people to understand that as you grow up and you go to college and become adults, that the most important responsibility will be for you is that you will be a member of a family, that you will raise a family, and that will be your number one priority. And I think about my own life, my own mother my mother was from Charleston, South Carolina, who raised 6 boys as a single parent. And I know there was a struggle. My mother moved from South Carolina to New York City, to Harlem, and I had family in the Bronx, and then moved to Philadelphia and settled. And I was the next to the youngest child, and my mother's older children were not going away to college and graduating. And she walked into my 3rd grade classroom. My 3rd grade teacher was a young white female, was not from our community, but she was there with those teachers every day, fighting for children, doing everything they can to help kids make it out of the community. And I grew up in the projects right near Temple University. And my mother walked into my teacher and said, I need your help. That this is my next to the youngest child, and my older kids are not graduating from college. One of my children must graduate from college. And my teacher had every reason to say, I can't focus on your son. I have 25, 30 other students to help. I can't do that, but that's not what good teachers do. Excellent teachers move ordinary children to do extraordinary things. And she worked with my 4th grade teacher, who was an older African-American female who had been in our school about 30 or 40 years. We thought she came with our building. Right? And she had about 10 after-school programs, and not one had a title. They were all called Get In Here. Right? And you young people know, when an adult wants to do no explanation, just get in here. And these 2 ladies collaborated, worked together to save my life, basically. To help me get into a middle school, a magnet school for gifted kids, and I went on to high school and became a basketball player and thought I could skip college and go right to the NBA. And they said, son, we need to speak to you. I said, why? I said, do you know a good agent? They said, no, but we've seen you play basketball. I said, boy, you can't jump over a credit card. So, you are not going to the NBA. They said, but you're smart enough to get an MBA. Why don't you go away to college and come back and help the same community that supported you and supported your family? And they were right. But so often that we grow up in the community and in the church, and we're nurtured and we're supported, and we make it out and often come back and give nothing. And so I graduated from college and I came back home and I didn't have a job. And the toughest thing in my community was to go away to college and come back and face the same people who told you were making a mistake going away to school. And we'll be right here when you get back, and you'll be right here with us. And they were right. And it somehow made me think that I made a mistake. And I called my teachers and I said, listen, you told me to go away to college. They said, yes, but we didn't promise you you'd get a job. I said, I don't have a JOB, CAR, or APT. I have nothing. And these guys are making me feel bad. They're telling me, they even make it rhyme. They say, why choose Yale over jail? They said, why'd you think about Penn State instead of the state pen? That the belief is that the 4 years that you spend when you first go away to college are years that you can spend right there in the community with those same people. And then there's this fear of alienation that our young people face, that if I somehow listen to you, my mentor, my teacher, my principal, my counselor, that my friends won't think that I'm cool. That they're somehow telling me that I'm a sellout because I want to get educated, that I want to make it out and come back and make a difference. And so we have to find a way to support our young people so that they're able to overcome those obstacles. And I called those teachers and said, I need your support. And they did not back away from me. The folks in the community who were there said that you have to understand that what you did for 4 years will change your community. Not only change your life, but change your community. And I went back in the community and started trying to talk to the guys in the community about the options that they had. But it still bothered me that I didn't have that success that they all told me I would not have that I thought I would. And my teacher said, well, you know, I have a brother who's an executive producer for Sports Channel. I can get you a part-time job because I was an undergraduate communications major. So she was able to get me a job working for what we call the NBA beat. So every week, we spent the day with the NBA player Charles Barkley, which was very interesting, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, but all of these NBA millionaires would often talk about education, how important school was for young people, and how they promised their parents that they would go back to school and get educated. But those same high school teachers invited me to a career day program. And high school teachers, all teachers, always have an ulterior motive. They said, come and speak to our kids about your job. And I walk in and speak to some young people about my job, and they didn't even want to know my name. They wanted to know how many cars Michael Jordan owned. There were a few after the program who said to me, if you can come in and motivate us, how come you aren't a teacher? It was the first time in my life that someone had asked me a question, not my professors, coaches, my mom, no one. I had no response. I didn't know why I wasn't a teacher. And I thought about all the people who had said to me how, getting out and getting educated and coming back, you can make a difference in your community. And so I walked into my TV job and I quit. And I enrolled in graduate school, got a master's and a certificate to teach, and I went right back to the same high school and started teaching. And the students all ran up to me and I thought they would say, welcome back, Mr. L. There were a few who said, Mr. L, you were a fool to leave that TV job. And we thought you would hook us up with a job when we graduate. But it takes one day working with young people, no matter who you are, to realize that you found your call. Now, this work is a ministry. These children will keep us on our toes and our knees every day. But we know that we're called to do this. But one of the things I realized early on in my career is that high school reform does not begin in ninth grade. That 50% or more of the students who drop out in ninth grade or before. That the bulk of our work has to be in preschool, elementary, and middle school education. And one thing about middle school, because I spent the next 10 years of my life as a middle school teacher and administrator, that you either love middle schoolers or you do not. Right? It is not a job for people who are on the fence. Right? Because these are teenagers who think they're adults. Right? And then they're adults that don't know if they're teenagers. So it is truly a blessing to be able to guide young people through that middle passage. But the struggle for me was in 10 years, we lost almost 20 students to murder in our community. There's no certification program that will ever prepare you to walk into a classroom and see an empty chair that a 12 or 13-year-old will never sit in again. There's nothing. I said to myself, I have to find a way to teach young people that they can choose the behavior, but they cannot choose the consequences. That's why I chose to teach my students to play chess. And I started teaching special education students mathematics on the chessboard. Knights move on right angles, bishops move on diagonals. The chessboard is a large square that contains 64 smaller squares. I thought I was giving these students mathematics on a chessboard, but what I was truly giving them was intellectual capital. They were now walking around the school carrying chessboards, and if you don't think anything else about a child who carries a chessboard, you assume that they are intelligent. So these students learn early on that smart is not something you are, it is something that you can become. That's a growth mindset, to understand that struggle is learning. The hard work overcomes everything. These students will walk around school carrying chessboards, and other students will walk into them and say, aren't you in the learning disabled program? You play chess? They say, yes. Let's play a match and see if you should be my roommate, right? It humbles you. And so those students started beating me right away, started beating other students, other teachers, and everybody wanted to play. Everybody wanted to learn to play chess. And so the teachers said, why don't you take them out and compete against other schools? And the students went out and started beating other elementary and middle schools right away. So we started competing against high schools. And then they beat Central High School, which is Bill Cosby's former school, one of the oldest and top high schools in the country. And I said to myself, these students, I learned early on about young people, is that they will rise to your level of expectation and the level of challenges. And so I took these students to a major tournament in February 1997, the U.S. Amateur Championship, largest team versus team event in the world, larger than the Olympics, over 220 teams, no age limit. And I was just so impressed with our young people. Well, number one, when we arrived, it was in Parsippany, New Jersey, right near New York, and we arrived in the hotel, it's a Hilton Hotel, and I tell the students to promise me, if the furniture's not in the van when we arrive, it will not be in the van when we leave. And they promised. And so our first match, our students were matched up against Bucknell University's chess team, and one of their players was a graduate student. Remember, there was no age limit. He came back to play with his friends. And I promised my students I wouldn't get upset if they lost, that this is what growth is about. We learn from our losses that failure is motivating, success can be paralyzing. And I was proud of them after the match because they weren't upset. The girls were jumping rope, the guys were having fun. They said, but there's just one thing, Principal L. We beat that team. I said, wait a minute, you won that match? So I found a graduate student. I said, sir, what happened? He said, I have two questions for you. Are these middle school students or midget adults? He said, who is the chess master that works with students? I said, sir, we're from a poor district. We cannot afford a chess master. These students are surrounded by adults in the school and the community who teach them that success only comes before work and dedication. That these are young people that believe that if they work hard, that they can overcome almost anything. And so one of our young students was matched up against an expert level player in his mid-40s, and all of the coaches were upset. The New York coaches who were there in numbers were very upset and encouraged us to complain to the tournament director. Why would you match this young man up from a tough family against this expert level player? The tournament director said, you know, we use a Swiss system. We match the top players up against our bottom level players and they work their way toward the middle, but you need to look at the board. And I looked at the board, and it looked like the young man was winning. I walked around the other side. But then I remembered that, yeah, that chessboard is a square. This is the same. It was the first time in 35 years of U.S. chess history that a novice or beginner player had ever defeated an expert level player. The tournament director said, we're going to write an article in Chess Life magazine, and he said, we want to treat your students to dinner in the hotel restaurant. And I said, sir, this is the Hilton Hotel. You don't want to let my children in your restaurant. I said, you give me a few dollars, I'll take them to McDonald's and they'll be happy. He said, you don't understand, this has never been done before. And so I took the children outside the restaurant and said, let's read the menu before we go in. We go in, if you can't pronounce it, don't order. So they went in and proceeded to order filet mignon, crab biscuit. But for some young people, that was the experience. And so I was so proud of those young people. At the end of the tournament, they defeated a team of 4 men whose combined age was over 200 years. Never done before. This is what our young people are capable of. Later in that year, in April 1997, went to Knoxville, Tennessee, and won the national championship. Our students have won 8 national championships, 7 consecutive titles, never done before in America. Arnold Schwarzenegger heard about our kids and came to visit. This was when he was thinking about running for governor, and he came wanting to start a golf program and fencing, and then he realized our students played chess, and he said, wow, I learned everybody in Europe has to learn to play chess, and I make everybody on the movie set play chess to keep them alert. And then he made a big mistake, and he said, I want to play one of your students. I said, no, you don't. And then an even bigger mistake was he challenged one of my young ladies. I said, Arnold, don't play the girls, because they treat the chess pieces like offspring. They play hours and will never trade a piece. He said, no, I want to play her. He wanted to play Little Denise Pickett, pink glasses, honor roll student, in school every Wednesday, after school, Wednesday, in church, Friday, Sunday. She was always there, but she was also one of the top 50 female chess players in the nation at age division. I said, don't do it. He played it. Denise said, you know, I was nervous. Mr. L, he's rich, he's famous, he's married to a woman who has more money than him, so I know he's upset. I said, oh, they teach you early, huh? She said, but I treated him just like he was another guy, and I checkmated him. Arnold said, you terminated. Then he wrote a check for our program for $20,000. It was an excellent lesson for our students. We would purchase luggage and blazers for our students. An excellent lesson for them to understand that there will be people from outside your community. There will be people who will not look like you, who will want to help. We have to be willing to open up ourselves and understand the hearts of people, and to know what they really want to do for us is from the heart, and we have to make sure that we appreciate that and then spread that blessing around. And I said to myself, wow, if I can do this at the middle school level, I should really work to get elementary students playing chess and trying to really encourage elementary teachers to really raise the rigor in their classrooms and the joy as well. And so I became a principal in our feeder elementary school. And my first year as principal, I really thought that if I became popular and I gave everybody what they wanted, that it would make everybody happy, but my students weren't happy. So early on, my lesson as an administrator and a leader was that I had to focus on my students. That I had to truly believe that supporting my staff members, supporting the school, connecting with the community, those outside agencies was the best way for me to serve children. And for me, it was great because my teachers understood that I truly cared about them. But I also realized that it was a tough job as a principal, and you principals know that. Because when I wanted to become a teacher, my mother was very happy. She said, oh, I can't believe you. I'm so proud of you. And just remember that every teacher is not a parent, but every parent is a teacher. And my mother passed away in 2002, but my mother was my life coach, my guide. But when I called my mother and said, Mom, I think I want to be a principal. She said, boy, you lost your mind. I said, why? She said, who wants to supervise adults? I said, I do. I said, Mom, I'm tired of breaking up fights in the lunchroom and the classroom with students. She said, don't you know as a principal, you will break up more fights between your teachers than you ever have in the lunchroom. And she told the truth. But she said, one thing you must realize is that if you're going to be a successful principal, you will walk into a school, and there will be teachers who have been there for principal after principal after principal. She said there will be old ladies there who are teaching the children of the children. Go in and bow down to those ladies and learn from them. She said, don't be arrogant. She said, arrogance is the Achilles heel of the school leader. Go in and learn from the people there. And I said, Mom, you just gave me the script for my first speech at my faculty meeting. And I went into my first meeting, I said exactly what my mother said. I just forgot to edit out the part about the old ladies. So I was in trouble my first year as a principal. But the important thing for me was to understand that as a leader, that I had to realize that it is the duty of the administration to serve the people, not the people the administration. And I learned that early in life, and that really helped to guide me. That was in 1999, my first year, which was my toughest year, when I really didn't think that I could become a successful principal, because I didn't really understand the challenges that would be there with having those difficult conversations, with being courageous. And I often complained about the confrontations, and my pastor heard me talking one day and complain about my job. He said, I'm tired of hearing you complain about everything that's going on. He said, don't you know the price of leadership is conflict? You've got to go in and be willing to take on those battles for those children. Was the most important thing that I'd ever heard. But I also had to realize how important those teachers were to me and to the young people. I have a teacher who'd come in and she'd be at the counter coughing. I'd be up in her room right away with a cup of hot tea and lemon. And she said, oh, Principal, you must really care about me. Oh, I do. But I also covered your class a few weeks ago. And your students caused me a lot of problems. So you cannot be absent ever again from school. That's my part about being a good leader. But I realized you got to give me the 5-minute signal when I get close, because my students say that's the signal. So in my remaining 5 minutes and a few seconds, I want to just encourage you to continue the work that you do with our young people. That the work that we do collectively, and I'm most impressed, and I've only been here a day, but I don't have to eat a whole pie to know it tastes good. I can see the level of teamwork that is here. My motto is teamwork makes the dream work. Is that the children, we model for them, that they need to see that we can work together, that we cross racial lines, we cross religious lines, political lines, that we all come together to make sure that we can support them. And that we understand that they are the most important resource that we have. And I think my takeaway from my visit here, that I will go back to the north and share with my colleagues, is that there are people who are working together for the benefit of children. They're placing kids first. And for me, it became real powerful for me my first year as principal. At the end of the year, when I really struggled if this was something I could do, I received a phone call from one of my former students, a young man named Otis Bullock who lived in a tough home, and we helped him to get into our high school for engineering and science, which was a top school, and he struggled. He ended up graduating from one of our comprehensive high schools, and we weren't sure if he had gone to college or if he had graduated. He called me and he said, you know, Mr. L, I'm graduating from college. And I said, Otis, what college do you attend? He said, Westchester State University. And I said, Otis, are you really graduating? He said, yeah, it's Friday and I'm graduating Sunday, but I don't want you to come. I just need one favor. He said, I want you to find my former teachers, just a few of them, and let them know one of their kids made this day. I said, Otis, you don't realize I've been to too many funerals. I need to go to more graduations. Are you truly graduating? He said, oh yeah, I'm done. He said, but don't come. I want to thank you, but just find a few teachers and let them know that I'm graduating. And I thought about all of the young people who wouldn't be able to be there with Otis or for Otis, but who were there in spirit. I called my wife, because I have to call my wife everywhere I go now, because for years as an educator, I did so many things with kids and didn't tell my wife until afterward, because I know she'd tell me not to stay too late, and that would make everybody unhappy. So I called my wife and I said, you remember Otis? And she didn't remember, because you wives never remember what you always say you do. She said, of course I remember him. And I said, he called and he's graduating on Sunday. My wife was pregnant with our first daughter. And we made the hour-long trip, 100-degree heat. Everybody was passing out in the heat. We cried through the entire ceremony because it was so emotional to see one of our kids make it. And after the program, we took pictures of Otis with his professors, with his friends. We took pictures of that young man with people he didn't even know. We were just so happy to see one of our kids make it. And after the program, he shared with us that some of his family didn't even attend the graduation. And I said, you look in the audience, because every teacher that I could find, I told them you were graduating today. And they came out. And I told them, we come out. When our children win the state football championship, we'll close schools down. We'll close the state down for sports. That we must dangle the academic carrot. And they came out. And that was in June of 2000. In May 2004, that young man, Otis Bullock, graduated from Temple Law School. And it was the proudest moment of my life as a teacher, father, mentor, principal, role model, to see a young person follow the guidance of teachers and their mentors. That's the immortality of influence. That we touch young people, and they will go on for years and touch other people. And those people may never, ever know who you are, but they will simply feel your influence through the work that you've done with our young people. And so I come to you today to say thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm going to ask you to just join me in taking this pledge that I ask in every city, in every state, and my staff and families and students every day. Let's stop praying for a lighter load and start praying for a stronger back. Because we know we can do this work. We know they are worth every effort. We just need to make sure that they understand that hard work is the key, and that we understand that we need to work just as hard to model that for them. God bless you, and have a great day, and thank you for inviting me.
Principal L, you talked about community and how it's hard for some children to leave, and that really struck me, because one of my dear friends who is now principal B.J. Bunton, we kind of had that mentality growing up. It was very difficult for us to leave sometimes because, you know, you become a schoolboy, you become soft. Now, B.J. and I whooped half the people in the neighborhood, but for some reason, after we left for school, there was this discomfort in coming back. What would you tell these principals that now have children that are right on the cusp of getting graduated in May, but they are experiencing that idea of, I can't leave Principal L because my hood won't welcome me back? What would you say to the principals and counselors that are here? And if you have any experiences with that, could you speak to it, please?
My microphone on? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's first of all, it's powerful and emotional to think about those experiences because as you can relate, you're trying to strike a balance with having this image of wanting to be there with people that you know have been a part of your life, you know, since you were a young child, but you also want to make sure that you're following the leadership and influence of the teachers in school and the adults in the community who are telling you that the only way for you to improve your community is you must improve yourself. And I'm speaking directly to you young people from my heart to yours, is that there will be challenges, there will be people right in your own school, sometimes right in your own family, that we would have these issues of why are you choosing these healthier alternatives? Why are you choosing these educational opportunities? And I think that as educators, as administrators, as adults in the lives of our young people, that we have to find a way to continue to instill in them the belief that whatever you do, that you're doing it because you have a sense of purpose, and that the way for you to come back, the way for you to help out, to give back, because that's what service is all about. I often say that leadership is about service. You don't serve, you can't lead. And we have enough leaders in this country, we don't have enough leadership. And so for our young people, it's an excellent, it's an excellent opportunity for them to develop their leadership skills and be able to have that comfort within yourself to say that I know what I'm doing is the right thing. We just have to make sure we continue to reiterate for them, you're not a sellout, that you're not soft, that being different is awesome, is great, but understanding that the only way that you will be able to change your family, your community, is that you must find a way to challenge yourself. If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And that can be difficult for you as you grow up, but just understand that there are adults in your life who are willing to be there, because it's very real. Often, bro, when I say that, there are people who challenge us. Oh, there can't be children who feel like that. Everybody who wants to get educated gets support, no matter who they are. That's not true. And many of us know that many times that they are on their own, and the only support that they receive may come right from the people who are in this audience.
Any questions? And again, I don't know if I said this. You can ask anybody on this side of the stage here questions. So Dr. Harkins or Mr. Tolan from Metro United Way. Do we have any questions?
Don't be shy.
Do not be shy. So we do have one. Is that Aubrey?
Yes, sir. Good morning. My name is Aubrey Williams. I want to thank you, Principal L, for coming down and sharing with us. But to elaborate on the last question, my question is, what success have you seen in, I guess, trying to change the mentality for the inner city black males in particular? I'm a native of Louisville. Actually, was a freshman in Mill across the street when I was put out of school the first time. But coming from the west end of Louisville, my mentality about education based on my culture that I came from in the west end was basically education wasn't important, and that mentality was pretty much, took over the majority of the community, most of my peers. And so we still deal with that today. I'm a case manager now for a program called Right Turn. And I walk up on brothers daily trying to offer jobs, in the department area, things like that. You guys aren't doing anything, aren't in school, but they still would rather embrace the block, stay attached to that community, stay where they are versus come, cross over, try something different. So my question is, what experience, what success have you had in just changing the mentality and getting them to be open to education?
I'm digesting what you're saying because you know as well as I do is that that's a feeling that is ever present right now, and we know that it permeates the community. This feeling of there's no education is not the answer for me because I'm trying to make it till tomorrow, let alone 15, 16, 17, or 18. And so I think that the first step is like, you were very honest today about your life, about your failures, about your struggles, your successes. And I think what has been key for me is never giving up on kids. I think that we have to, that no matter what they tell us, that truly in their heart, that they want support, they want structure, they want discipline. Discipline is a form of love. And sometimes I have to share this with my parents because my true belief is that we change the cycle by making sure we raise it. The next generation has to understand that education for some will be one of their salvations. That it will be the key to their success and the success of many of the people around them. So we raise them to understand that this is very important. And so I have to tell my young ladies, very honestly, a young man comes, because when you're in high school, I can guarantee you a young man will ask you for your phone number, guarantee. And when he does, I need you, see this helps me get my young men in line. When he does, I need you to just ask him one question. Just tell him that before I give you my phone number, I need you to solve the quadratic equation, in fact, the polynomial, right, before I give you my number. And if not, I need you to call me when you graduate from university or wherever you go to school, because if you're not on your way, you will be in my way, right? So, amen, right? So young lady, put up fists up. Because our young men have to understand that life is about more than sports. And this is my biggest struggle. I have some very intelligent young men who truly believe that they do not need school, that their answer is professional sports. And what I need them to understand, there's a reason they call you a student athlete. Because you're a student. And with all the things going on in the college athletics now, you can see that there are some who do not understand that your number one priority is a student. And so we take that back 5, 10 years, and we don't go in the community in elementary school and preschool. And that's why I love the United Way, because so many of those initiatives that with helping young people, getting books in their hands, start long before they ever start bouncing a basketball or throwing a football, or young ladies start running track or playing ball. It starts right when they begin to form and shape and understand their ideas about education. Because we have to go very early teaching those young people, especially young men, because our young men don't decide in high school if they're going to drop out. They decide in elementary and middle school, they're just too young to hang out at the mall. So they have to buy time until they can get out. But the idea is start early and get them to understand that education is important, and then introduce them to role models. You look around this room and you see the men that are in this room. This is a powerful message to walk into a school, a community center, and say to a young person, you can be me because I was once you. These ladies here have been carrying our community for over 200 years. Men, we have been absent. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to keep it real with them. We have been absent. We are basically living in a fatherless society. Now, we have to support these women. And I'm being real, bro. That we have to support these women in raising our children, raising our community, and improving our schools. And the idea, and the children don't care who you are, man. If you're white, black, Latino, Asian, they don't care if you're tall, short, fat, skinny, you have hair, you're going to buy hair, they don't care, right? They just want to know that you will be here tomorrow. Because most of the men in my life have come and they have gone. And so I think a major factor is making sure that we're getting those mentors in the lives of those young people, getting those role models, and then we model for them. That when we make it out, that we don't come back and say, oh, you know, I grew up middle class, I never had an issue, my parents never had a problem, we never had to do anything. No, you have to be honest and tell them about that cheese that you have to cut, that it broke 3 knives before you could cut it, right? Tell them about the meals that you missed. Be honest and tell them about the struggles. Let them know that I struggled, I failed, but I always believed that if I could look up, I could get up. You see, that's your message, and the message for many of us, that we've had struggles, but one thing that we understood, that with the support of adults in your lives, Just open yourselves up to their influence that you can be successful. It may not come right away, and you may not win everything, but teaching children to be resilient is not about teaching them how to be successful. It's about teaching them how to respond when they're not successful.
Any more
Thank you.
questions? You got one, Daryl?
And I told you my students sound more like a preacher than a
Right.
teacher. And I know I have some reverends in the house, so I want to make sure I confer to them.
Karen Napier, Metro United Way. First of all, thank you. Thank you for keeping the faith and keeping your dedication. It's hard when all of us are so very passionate about what we do. Share with us how you keep your balance, with your family life, with your professional life, and your passion to care about children.
I need to know if my family's going to hear this response, because I'm sure my daughter will be blowing my phone up, any minute. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. See, today is keep it real day today, because that is one of my major struggles. I was sharing with your brother that I'm actually writing my dissertation, my PhD, and just finding the time to do that is a struggle. But and then we didn't even talk about trying to eat right, trying to exercise, trying to make sure that you're taking care of family. That it's probably for educators for sure, probably one of our biggest struggles, because the more we become involved in our schools, the more we realize how important the family support is. And I say to my teachers, because family is first in our school. So I'll tell teachers, I'll tell you immediately, you will be in trouble with me if I find out that your child's sick or needs help and you are at work. That we need to be there, that the most caring and nurturing people are people who support educators. Because you know that we have some children that give an aspirin a headache. We all know that, right? And we know that they need lots of attention, right? Now you can use my jokes, man, you just have to give me credit. So I don't want you going back to school, oh, I have some new material. Students, I thought about it last night. You make sure you say Principal L, United Way, give me credit. And the thing is, folks, it's okay to use humor. And I think we need to, because there's enough for us to cry about. And your pastor, Rick Warren, says the opposite of serious is not funny. The opposite of funny is not funny. So you can be serious and funny at the same time. So I appreciate the fact that you're open enough to laugh, even if I'm sure the students are front like, oh, Principal L, this corny joke, right? But see, as old folks, we love to laugh. But I think that it's important for us to maintain that balance and finding ways. Now, for me, part of the solution for me, and I'm gonna be honest with you folks, is my children spend time at school with me at times. Right? I'm being honest. That the children in my school know my children, because I need to spend time with my children and I need to spend time with children in school. So part of that balance is that my family has become like the first family. And so we spend lots of time together there, but I also make sure that when I'm home, I try to make sure that I spend time with my children. But my children are involved in so many things that sometimes they don't want me around. And being in a house full of women, because I have 2 girls, and you ladies are high maintenance at any age, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Amen? Right. But I get about an hour ESPN every night, and I'm happy with that. But I think the key is making you a priority. You are no good to your staff. You're no good to your team in school if you're in a hospital waiting on a triple bypass. So we have to make sure that we take that time to take care of ourselves, eat right, exercise, reconnect, but also surround yourself with people like these folks in the audience. People who want to make a difference. Iron sharpens iron. People who will support you, people who will be there for you and won't judge you, right? And who will be there to make sure that they share with you some of their own experiences.
Another questions? Who's it going to? Let me guess, Rhonda. Knew it.
I guess my question is for the panelists as well as Principal L. When you are interacting with families, especially the parents or the grandparents who are raising the children that we have in elementary, a lot of times through life experiences, they have had challenges or issues with quote-unquote the systems, institutions. School is another institution in an area that sometimes is not trusted. So how do you make or help families who have experienced the many systems and many institutions that they've had to be exposed to because of life circumstances, that school is it is another institution or system, but it can be trusted. How do you foster that? And I know there are a couple people on the panel who are not within education, but they also represent systems or institutions that have had left a negative taste in the mouth of those that we serve, because we serve the public also.
Right. And I'll give a short response. I don't know if you want to let the panel answer, because I'm sure there are folks here that can really speak to this issue. But you know, we do have many parents who truly believe that almost every institution in the community has basically left them to fend for themselves. And oftentimes it's because of their experiences or their lack of the ability to access those resources, their limited access, their limited power that they may have, especially at the school level, information. So I think that when we talk about transforming schools and transforming education, that we also have to make sure we keep in mind that we have to re-educate our parents. That they have to understand that the schools, the school systems that they knew years ago are much different now. But I think also we have to get back at the school level to making sure that we understand that the school belongs to the community. That parents need to know that the school is a place for you to be able to come in and feel safe. Not come in and feel like you're an intruder. Not come in and feel like you're inconvenienced. The only thing I try to sort of train or teach my parents that there's a way to come in and get anything you want. Come in with a teachable spirit. Come in with the questions. Come in with the question on how can I help support my child. Don't come in and tell me it's my job to raise your child and I'll see you in 5 years. But a lot of that is because of their own experiences. Or when I discipline your child and you come in and say to me, you don't like my program. But then I have to often say in a nice way, if your program was working, I wouldn't have to use mine, right? Because I have some children who have been in my school for years and have never been in my office. Your child's in my office more than my furniture. So let's first talk about what happened, and it's all about re-educating. Because for many of them, school wasn't a positive experience. And so they don't know that there are people in schools who love them, who care about them, who want them to be successful. I have many teachers who struggled with, as parents when they were growing up, understand that we share those struggles. So I think that we have to regain that trust. We have to be very honest with our parents. When we make mistakes, we don't need to cover it up. We need to be transparent and say, listen, Mom, I got that wrong. I got that wrong. How can I correct that? Please come in. I tell them, my parents, they don't make an appointment. They come in. I see you when I can. But the idea has to be that you come into the school because we exist because of you. Parents don't keep their good kids home. They send us what they have. And we have to get back to, that's the old school. Because how our parents came to school, the whole school was quiet. Because every child in school knew your parent. And knew your parent didn't play around. We've got to get back to that, where the parent comes in and the parent understands that the school welcomes them and that we are a resource. We're a resource for them.
Any more questions? The panelists have their own, they have their own section in time where we'll be questioning them. I actually kind of did a remix and called them up a little bit, but of course Sadiqa wants to say something.
I want to, is this working?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Good. About systems when it comes to parents. I think that what Principal L said at the end is most important. Sometimes we really need to validate what the parent is feeling, because the reality is that we do have some systems that are failing. And in order to maintain your integrity, I think it's important for you need to build the trust with those parents. I think we all have to do that when we have anything to do with young people. And so where there is a breakdown in the system, we cannot defend that. And I think we make a mistake sometimes by invalidating people's feelings about, sort of what their experience has been. And the reality is we know in some instances we have some troubled systems. I work for the government. There are lots of things that local government, Louisville Metro is absolutely doing right. But where we are failing, we have to be honest about that. And so to invalidate that, you really do lose credibility. So I think to the extent that you earn the credibility, you maintain your integrity, people trust you, and then that trust runs into trust in the system. But to be very clear, there are systems I don't trust completely. And so why not just say that because of my own life experience, but I'm a part of it because I want to see it better. And I think people understand that.
And isn't that the true essence of leadership, right? Is we have to be willing to admit and own our mistakes. So if there's any aspiring administrator, any new administrators here, the most important thing that you can do is when you're in your school and you get it wrong with your staff, is you let your staff know, hey, I got that wrong. I'm not perfect, right? I am not perfect. I will get it wrong and it won't be the last time. And let's own it, let's embrace it, and let's move forward. When our children are not successful, let's embrace that. Let's look at how we can support that. Let's recognize growth though, right? Let's not believe that because we can't count it, it doesn't count. There's so many things our children and teachers are doing that we must recognize. But when we don't get it right, let's own that, let's move forward and say we'll get it better next time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm from United Way. I'm very active in the community. You forgot one lyric that we had growing up. That was James Brown.
What is it?
I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door, I'll get it myself.
Oh, that's right.
You must be prepared, and that's what I grew up with, you know? They don't want you at the table, but if you're good, you can have a seat at the table.
Right.
You have to prepare yourself. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that education, and it speaks to what the gentleman back there was saying, education per se is an intangible when you are in a struggle just to exist, because your family is in chaos, because your community is in chaos, and your community offers you basically no options. And so education is this amorphous thing that they're talking about, that they're holding out there. And one of the things I love about United Way is that we are working with the family, we're starting early enough that you see education as a uniting, something that unites the community, that brings the family into focus. And I think that, well, what I wanted to ask you is, how do you sell education to a kid who has no idea what that means? I mean, I didn't know, and I had a very easy time at school. I didn't realize I had to go to college until I had the opportunity to skip 8th grade and get out of school sooner. You know, and I was like, okay, so now what do I do? And it was like, oh hell, you mean to tell me I have to go to college? I had no idea. And I did. But I'm just saying, how do you make education a real, something that's tangible and not intangible?
It's a tough sell, man. I mean, I'm being quite honest with you. For some young people,
Fencing is good. It's physical chest.
what's that, man?
Fencing.
Oh,
You
fencing.
said art, yes.
Oh, yes,
Fencing
ma'am.
is physical
Oh, yeah.
chest.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing.
But it is a challenge. I mean, for some young people, the conversation early in their home is not, are you going to college? It's what college are you going to attend, right? So that's the conversation early. But for young people, they may not even hear that word at home. And so I think the real intervention for us, the real game changer, I think, is exposure. That there's a large achievement gap, but there's also a major exposure gap. Most research will tell you that 3/4 of the children we work with, by the time they're 18, that most of the trips that they take, if they're not going to school, would be within 3 to 4 miles of their home. That we need to take kids early, elementary school. We can't wait until high school for college visit, folks. Because as we know, we've lost 50% of our population, right? Our potential college students. So at elementary school, middle school, we need to take those students on visits. We need to have those cultural exchanges where we have students meeting students, so that students of different racial backgrounds can see that although we look different, we all have the same priorities. Nobody likes their parents. Everybody's got crazy names for their pets. Everybody wears the same braids. We all like the same music. We look different, but we like the same things. That we're more alike than we're different. That we need to find ways to connect children so they can see, oh, there are other children who are struggling, but that young person's talking about going to good schools, going to colleges. And I think also we have to get back to our whole parenting piece. That we know that we can't wait until every parent is on board, but we have to do everything we can to educate our parents. That this work is K through adult. I've realized that after quite a few years, that this is K through adult. Educating our parents on how they can best support their children to not only get to college, because see, you know the key for us now is that their children who are getting to college who never get off campus. So the idea is get to college and graduate. And so the sell is we get you out, expose you to mentors, expose you to other children, expose you to activities where you will see, oh wow, how do I get that job? When people come in and talk to you, how do I get to where you are? There are a few key things in education. We have to keep that education has to be consistent, often, for our young people. And then bottom line is great schools. That kids need to be in schools where they know that they matter. Where people in school know my name. People know my circumstance. That they have high expectations for me, that also they're going to be here to help me meet those expectations. Don't decide that you're going to teach for 1 or 2 years and then do something else. I need to know 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, I want to be able to reach out to you and ask you for some advice. I need to be able to see you and know that you can help me. That's the key, having those adults who will be there for you.
We have one more question, then we will move to the panel.
Principal L, you mentioned in middle school you were losing a lot of students to homicide. I know we have this issue here in Jefferson County with a lot of our youth dying to homicide and just have a sense of hopelessness, that you would say, in our community. What did y'all do in Philadelphia to address these issues?
I think the key, well, number one, is that the majority of our students who were getting in trouble between the hours of 4 to 6. So we knew we had to increase the number of after-school programs, not only in our school, but in our community, keeping those students safe. And then we had to find safe ways for those students to travel. So we had safe routes for those students to get home. But I think, well, as you saw from me, my tool was teaching students to think. One thing I love about chess is that students have to not only see the turn, they have to see around the turn. They're thinking 2, 3, 4 moves ahead, critically thinking, problem solving. And I think it's important. Many of our young people, they're good children that are making bad decisions, or they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so the idea for young people to understand is I need to know when you drive up in that car, and I've never seen that car before, know that it's not your vehicle, that I don't need to get in that vehicle. That our children are very good at knowing which corner do I walk around, who do I associate with. That we teach them those critical life skills, and then again, making sure that those students have access to after-school programs. We know the benefit of after hours, of not just academically, but just keeping kids safe. Students who go on to be successful in life are students who say that they read a lot of books, that they had some mentor in their life, and that they were involved in some after-school opportunity where they could maximize that time, that more time on task. And then we've got to find a way to change the community. Because, when we were growing up, we had crime in the community, but there was sort of this belief that there were certain things that that criminals didn't do when grandma wasn't around, that criminals didn't do when children was around. There's sort of now like this reckless abandon, this wild, wild west mentality where it doesn't matter, where, you have folks that there's certain things you couldn't do to a school, let alone come inside of a school, but even the outside of a school. So I think we've got to my theme is we've got to get back to that old school way of educating and living and understanding that we are a community. You mentioned being united, and we know that we have to be united in what we do. You change the word united, the T and the I becomes untied. A small change, a very powerful word changes. So we need to make sure that we're united, we're diverse in our efforts, but we're also working together, and I think that will truly be the key to change our community. But we know it will take events like today where there's a call to action. So not just a lot of conversation and we go right back to what we're doing. After the day, somebody needs to go back to their community and say, I'm changed and I'm going to help to change my conditions or change other people.
Okay, that ends this part of the questions for this side of the group. Dr. Hargens, Joe Tolan, and Principal L. What we're going to do is move over here to our community leaders and advocates for public education. They have agreed to join us to kind of reflect and talk about their work, their challenges, concerns, issues, as relates to moving the community forward. You know, Metro United Way always talks about live united. And this group, I can actually look at this table and actually give an example of work that my department, in particular in Jefferson County as a whole, is doing with every person at that group. So what we're going to do now is turn it over to our panelists, and for the sake of time, I'll let them quickly introduce themselves, but everybody on this side can talk, so let me tell them quickly, you have 3 minutes to expound upon whatever it is you're going to expound upon. Now, we do have some driving questions, but I do not want that to lead us. If there is something that's sitting on you that you would like to share regarding what we've had so far, so be it. I would like to start with Dr. Hargens. We consider the center of the universe, and that is our student, Josh. Josh, would you like to start off the panelist conversation with reflection, comments, or anything regarding what we've talked about or what other people have reached out to you to discuss?
Hello, I'm Joshua Gully. I attend work in the high school as a senior. First, I want to start off talking about the student challenges that students have to face. The biggest challenge I think they have to face is basically within themselves. I feel as if most students in our community don't take school as serious as they should be, and that they need to dig within themselves to basically start taking school seriously. And basically that was a challenge for myself back in freshman year and middle school and stuff like that. I feel as if the teachers didn't challenge me and I also didn't challenge myself. But once I started attending Wagner, my counselors helped me a lot, my principals helped me a lot, and my teachers and my advanced placement courses have helped me become a better student in person. And I feel as if I'm doing better. So that's basically what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. What we'll do is build upon that, and we will kind of go down the road here based on my sheet. We have Michelle Dillard, who is the area superintendent for Area 4. Michelle, can you speak to some of the things that you have heard today in your experiences as an education leader as relates to your job, your calling, and what you believe Jefferson County and the city of Louisville need to work on, focus on, and what you're proud of, if you wish?
Yes. First of all, it is an honor and privilege to be able to be here today. And as the area assistant superintendent for Area 4, one of the things as a previous principal too, a teacher, an educator, and parent, we do believe in Area 4 that failure is not an option, that success is the only option. We do believe in all of our students. There are lots of challenges that they bring to us every day, as all the principals that are sitting in the audience know. But our job and responsibility is to figure out what those barriers are. We find ways to be able to break those barriers down. That is what JCPS does. That is what our principals do. They provide opportunities for teachers as far as professional development, working in PLCs to look at data, analyze that, change instructional practices to make sure they're meeting the needs of all of the students, not some, but all. Being able to attend equity and inclusion institutes and giving teachers what they need. They believe in diversity. One of the things is that we have to believe and be very honest about things today. And that's one of the things that I think that is one of the struggles is when the lady was talking about parents. Parents have to believe in us. They have to know that we are partners with them. We do have to own things and be very transparent, but we want to bring them to the table as we bring teachers to the table and have a plan and collaborate and work together. It is all about collaboration and working together. As you said, Principal L, leaders, we are servants, and in JCPS we believe that we are servants. We have to teach the students, if they have obstacles, to turn those into opportunities. If they go through struggles, then make those their stepping stones. Our principals have to continue to encourage our staff, to inspire them, to motivate them. Principals need motivation and inspiration as well to be leaders, to be able to inspire the teachers. So they go through things as well. And so my job and the other area assistant superintendent's job is to make sure that we are providing coaching for you, that we're inspiring you, that we have high expectations for you, that you have high expectations for all of your staff, and that your staff have high expectations for students. They come from different backgrounds, as we know, and it doesn't matter. We are a diverse community. We are a diverse district, and it doesn't matter if they live in the East End, the West End, the South Side. It doesn't matter where they come from, $100,000 income home or $10,000 income home. We as JCPS employees are committed and should be committed to educating all of those students. As you talked about earlier, I do believe that as we're in this day and time, one of the challenges that we do have is going from a fixed mindset to having a growth mindset and truly, truly believing that all kids can learn. But as we continue to put things in place, I know that the principals have things that they put in, like win time, what I need during school. They have Attain, extended school, being able to provide the resources that teachers need to be able to teach those students and meet those needs. Our students have lots of social, emotional needs as well, and I think sometimes people forget about that. And so we have to make sure that we take care of those social, emotional needs before we can get to the academics. They come to us with a lot of challenges and barriers, but we know that nothing is too hard to overcome. Our principals, I can speak specifically, I think all the principals in JCPS, but I know for certain that all principals know that it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and commitment. And we believe that the kids can achieve. We have to believe in the principals, we have to believe in our staff, and we have to provide opportunities for them to know that we are there for them. Sometimes we may ask you to do things and it may be tough, but it is what it is because it's all about the kids and we have to do what's best for them. Is that about my time?
Yeah, you're up, buddy.
No, I
You're up.
Oh,
they done killed your mic. They done killed your mic, Michelle.
I just want to finish this by saying I'm so thankful for our community and the community partners and relationships that you have brought into the schools because truly I am old school. It takes a village to learn and together we can do all things. I believe we will achieve.
Thank you. As we move forward, we're going to let Chief Reynolds grab the microphone. And Sadiqa, you have an amazing view on how our city is working together around youth, family, violence, and neighborhoods. What in your mind today would you like to share or expound upon as relates to this, or just the work that collectively we're doing as a city?
Thank you. So I'm Sadiqa Reynolds. I'm the Chief for Community Building in the Office of the Mayor, and I just want to talk about this stuff quickly. So from the Mayor's office, we are working on safe and healthy neighborhoods because your question about what are you doing in Philly. There were 5 of us that took a trip to Philly. We met with Chicago to talk about how do we save the young men, first of all, in our community. And there are young girls that say, what about us? We get that, but we have to start somewhere. When we look at the violence, it leads us. We're following the data, and it leads us right now to boys, and particularly boys of color. I don't like it when people talk about black on black crime because white people kill white people, black people kill black people. That's just the way it is. So we just need to do something about crime and about violence. I think JCPS is to be commended for spending the money on mental health professionals in the schools this year. It's phenomenal. I am a child who is a product of a home with domestic violence. I went to school and the teachers did not know what I was going through. Somebody told, there was a counselor who helped me, who walked me through the challenges that I was having at home. These teachers cannot teach and also deal with all of the baggage that the kids are bringing in, and we've got to deal with that. So to the extent that we are, I think it's phenomenal. One of the things we're doing from the mayor's office, we thought about, if a parent, and we have had in this community, a child found their parent dead. So the school finds out about that. But what happens when there's a domestic violence incident? What are we doing there? So we have a liaison who is working between the police department and the school system to make sure that the school understands what that child might have been exposed to the night before, the day before, 2 days before. I think that's important because maybe it is the difference between how you handle them. Do they get suspended? Do you bring them into the office and hug them? What are we dealing with? There's so much that's happening with these young people. We always talk about resiliency with youth. From our perspective, we need to talk about resiliency for teachers. I am the mother of a 9 and a 7-year-old. I have a problem sending my kids to school to teachers who have been beat up on. We need to do better in this community to celebrate the folks that are doing the good work, that are doing the tough work. I really do believe we need to pour into the teachers. What I would like to see, an action step that I think we must have in this community, is we need some of this training that the teachers are getting. We need the out-of-school time providers to have it too. If you think about 1 in 6 young people are sexually abused, you think about all of the things, these people who are spending time after school need to see some of these signs, know the signs, catch them, and respond to it. Because sometimes they've built a different level of trust than maybe you guys have as teachers. But I do think we need to be very, very conscientious about how we talk about our teachers. Whether it's the media, if there's any media here. I mean, I'm in government, we get beat up on a lot. People, you're human. I mean, how do you work every day and deal with all of that, take all of that in, and nobody pours back into you? I want to help pour back into the teachers and to the folks that I'm leaving my babies with. I think we need recruitment of men. Everybody talks about it. We need more men. When are we going to do something? When will we pull out? And I think women are phenomenal. We need great people to love these kids and work with them. But we also really do need to begin thinking about a plan to recruit men to the field. If it's already out there, then we need to do a better job at communicating. And I think that goes for the work that we're doing with the Out-of-School Time Coordinating Council. That's a partnership between the mayor's office, Metro United Way, and JCPS. We're not doing a good job at communicating. We're working our butts off. But we've got to do better at telling the story and saying what we're trying to do. Because what I love about Louisville, we're a pretty big city, 16th, 17th largest, whatever, but we're small enough to come to the table together and move in the same direction. And we are really beginning to do that. And I am so proud of our community. We have a long way to go, but we're moving in that direction. So I think there are things that you need to be proud of, but we've got a lot to work on. And the biggest thing, communication, resiliency, not just for the kids, the teachers as well, and then also, and collaboration is huge. And not just this talk collaboration. I really hate panels. I really didn't want to come today, I'll be honest with you, because I feel like I'm so busy doing the work. But sometimes we really do need to sit down and let people know what's happening and what's going on. So I think to the extent, I cannot say enough about the mental health professionals being in the schools and the burden that I think that takes off. And the only thing I hope is that we will be able to expand that even more, because these kids are going to be a lot.
Thank you. Jerry Swinton with Big Brothers Big Sisters is the premier mentoring and organization in our community. Jerry, can you kind of talk about the importance of mentoring and the collaborations that we have amongst all of these community groups and how that really impacts the main thing, which is our students?
Sure, be glad to. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I really appreciate United Way and Jefferson County Public Schools in hosting Principal L's conversation. Obviously, he's very passionate. He can move a group, but I was most impressed when I talked with him and found that at his school in Philadelphia, he hosted the largest in-school Big Brothers Big Sisters program in the city. And so it shows me that he truly does value those outside relationships that can help support a student academically. And as he points out, it's not enough to have great academics and learning strategies, that you can have a student in attendance, but are they really present? And what can you do as educators and community members to help that student be present in their seat and in their academic achievements? A mentoring relationship that is long-lasting, that's professionally supported, I think is really key. And there are many of us in this room who can provide those relationships. A student whose parent perhaps didn't even finish the 9th grade may not be providing a home setting that is conducive to a student finishing their homework, and not because they don't care, they may just simply not know how. A student whose family is in chaos due to homelessness, perhaps domestic violence, may simply just not have the structure or the tools to get schoolwork completed and to be focused. And students who may be mistrustful because of their home situations, because of other reasons of adults may be challenged in school. And as you know, a student who is mistrustful not only is disruptive in their own education, they may just be disruptive in others as well. So in a mentoring relationship that are frequently secured through collaborations that bring diversity and alignment to the student's academic success. In our first effort to bring students to real-life work situations, we have partnered, actually through the inspiration of Michelle, through a partnership with PricewaterhouseCoopers in Humana in connecting students with big brothers and big sisters who are accountants in those firms. We've also often see children who are uprooted by poverty, as I mentioned, domestic violence, may change homes, schools, and we know how difficult that is, that such students can really benefit from mentors who are equipped with the training and can have the professional support behind the scenes and can talk to other mentors, and in our case, big brothers and big sisters, who can encourage them to stick with it and to educate them as to what some of the challenges are so that they can really equip that student in a very real-life way to stay focused on their schools. We've seen students change schools, change homes, only to be followed from one setting to another by a caring big brother or big sister. To think differently and to stay focused on the student, I feel that collaborations are key. Collaborations that we've seen be most successful are collaborations with Greek organizations, that there is a network of fraternities and sororities within the African American community that align very much with what our efforts are, as well as Jefferson County Public Schools. And supported by the Humana Foundation, we've just launched a couple of years ago a mentoring initiative focusing on volunteers who are 55 and older, who bring abundant energy and wisdom and passion to the importance of academics and career readiness. Further, such efforts, and we talked a bit about the parents, but I really think that is key. At Big Brothers Big Sisters, we're on our third research project, and this third one is focused on parental engagement. What can we do as an organization to help the parent be engaged and supportive of academic success, because if they've never felt it or known it, it's hard for them to understand it. And so we'll let you know within a year exactly what strategies seem to work best, but I have a feeling that all of us up here on the panel, our gut reactions, know that parents care very much about their children, but have reasons for feeling the way that they do. And the value, I think, of a mentor can be summed up by one little brother who bounded out to his big brother's car with his latest test. He had scored a B on his test, and he was a little disappointed because his big brother had helped him study awfully hard for that test, and he thought he should be getting an A. But the big brother said, you know, look at this. You know, you've raised your grade in this class. Your last test, you got an F. You've raised it to a B. This is just wonderful. And the little brother just rolled his eyes and said, you think everything I do is great. Well, every child, every student in our community deserves that person who thinks that everything they do is great and that all things are possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Amy Dennis, who is also an area superintendent. And it's funny, I was going to ask Amy to talk about collaboration, but a quick story before started, Amy had to run out as she always does and fix something and come back. But in between then, another teammate, and Dr. Hensley's done a good job lining up his team. Another teammate came over and said, I'm filling in for Amy, and it was Dr. Hartstern, and she was ready to go. But then, of course, I think symbolically and literally, Amy sends a text, says, I am back and ready to roll. What do we need to do? So she is here, and that kind of speaks to the team that we have in the community. And Amy, I would like for you to talk about always being ready to roll in collaboration and working together with your area superintendents, the community, and the principals.
Absolutely. When you have an opportunity like this to hear a national speaker like Principal L, it gives you a great opportunity, it gave me a great opportunity to reflect upon how lucky I am. Not only to be surrounded by a good team, because the 12 of us on Dr. Hensley's team, 15 of us, have each other's back. It's good to know that. But also how lucky I am to be surrounded by folks, the principals I work with every day, who are living a lot of the things that Principal L talked to us about today. So I want to touch on a few of those because you guys inspire me with what you do. When he talked about having a sense of purpose and then being in the leadership role to lead that, boy, that is so true. And it is easy to get caught up in the little things that can drive you crazy. But I watch folks every day that go back to that sense of purpose. I believe strongly that improving education is the civil rights struggle of our day. And we can't ever forget that. On the days when you've got 50 people pulling at you in 70 different ways, remember that you're on the front lines of this struggle, and it is important not only for our children, but for our community. You guys are the leaders of that. And watching you guys lead that and supporting you in that is the bulk of our work. We know that every child needs an advocate. Principal L talks about that. And you think about the change we're making in JCPS, which is talking about each individual child's needs. And a lot of my colleagues here have talked about the mental health needs, that sort of piece. I see this happening with teachers in PLCs. They are starting to talk about individual children and what that kiddo needs. Often, that is a mentor, or maybe 3 mentors. And we have schools that are working to make sure that they hook children up with the right folks to help lead their change. I also see teachers taking a whole different role through this PLC impact, and that is they are the leaders. They're the ones on the front lines that know their kiddos and know what they need, and we're empowering them, and boy, we are seeing a difference. If you looked at the numbers, it's working. You also see students, and I'm so glad we have students here today. I have watched students in some of our schools start clubs, start groups, start support groups, reach out to the community to support their fellow students and struggles they may be having. It is inspiring to see these students and how they're collaborating with administration, other teachers in the building to make changes. What great life experiences. Another big change I've seen recently is our community partnerships. And boy, we could list a million of them, but instead of just being our buddies who support us, we're seeing some rubber hit the road, I guess. We have business partners who are in our buildings every day. One of the high schools I work closely with has 100+ business partners who are there regularly. We have businesses across the city who've had externship teachers in their businesses, right there elbow to elbow working with them. That's work, and that's helping our teachers be better at meeting kids' needs. We have faith-based partners who are, boy, they are right there. One of the schools I work with, the church next door has adopted one of the athletic teams. They come to every game. They know every kid. They bring drinks for the kids at breaks. They come to practices. They are there all the time, not just for the big game. That is some real true partnership. The Metro United Way has been a great partner for us for a long time, particularly around early childhood matters, and we all know that is a big place to start. And recently I went to a meeting with the local government folks at a neighborhood place meeting, and watching all of the different social services from across the city talking together and figuring out how to best meet the needs of our families. We've really got some great partners going on, and that doesn't even mention the universities and the support we're getting from those. I love when Principal L said we need a strong back. We do. The work you guys do every day is not easy. I admire what you do. We all talk about all the time that you guys are just carrying the big loads, and we appreciate that. We look forward to improving our practice even more. So thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, for the sake of time, we have another comment from Pastor James, and then Pastor James is also going to slide over here and do a call to action. But Pastor James is a very active minister in the community and a true supporter of JCPS. You also work very hard at keeping us honest, and you and I always talk about that, and we go into in-depth conversations about it. Can you talk from the stance of being a faith-based leader, what you feel like the faith-based community can do and is doing as relates to supporting students and moving forward in JCPS? And then after that, Mary will just transition right over here to do the call to action.
Thank you, John. One of the things I would like to mention, first of all, is just to thank all of the teachers who are here again. You all doing such an incredible job. Because you have firsthand experience and firsthand knowledge in working with our young people. I think when we talk about the faith community, one of the opportunities that I have just recently being elected as the president of the Interdenominational Ministerial Coalition that supports some 252 churches, congregations ranging from 20,000 down to memberships of 10. So there's a wide range of opportunities that we have within the faith community. One of the things that we've seen as the backbone of a part of our community is the faith community, stepping up and standing in the gap as to where sometimes parents are challenged, don't have the opportunities to be able to go to the schools, to be able to work with teachers where the faith community can stand in the gap. There's opportunities to be able to do that, as well as to be right on a grassroots, from a grassroots perspective, to be able to be on the ground and talking with the kids and working with the kids. One of the interesting things, our church was initially getting ready to start a program in the community. And one of the things I did, I went out and began to talk with a lot of the young people in the community about what we were doing. And one particular instance, this young man who was in the pharmaceutical sales, he was standing on the corner and he was sharing in terms of what he was doing. And I asked him, I said, how is it that you can attract all of these children here? And our church has been over in this corner, man, we're scratching and scraping trying to reach these children. And he said something to me that was so alarming that it changed my whole perspective on ministry and about what we do in terms of engagement. He said, I spend more time with them. He says, I'm here when they go to school. I'm here when they get out of school. And I'm here when they're hanging out on the corner. And that immediately changed my paradigm as it related to the faith community and what we need to be doing, engaging in our community. And so I started on a journey from that point on, realizing that we have to take this time, this opportunity to take firsthand knowledge and practice what we preach and begin to challenge our congregants to be able to step in. I believe that there are a lot of caring adults that want to see our children successful. I think there's a lot of people in our community that want to see our community, our children successful. But I think that there's a huge disconnect in the connecting of the two. And many times I believe that that disconnect that is not coming together is a result of not knowing each other, not spending the time sitting down and talking and engaging one another to understand our differences, also to understand our similarities. And as we talk more and have an opportunity to engage more, we begin to understand that we have a lot in common. And when we understand that we have a lot in common, then we can begin to work together to be able to solve some of these challenging problems that we have. And there's really no magic bullet that's going to solve the problems that we have because we didn't get here overnight. It's a challenge that we all have to face, and it has to be a collaborative effort that we're working together. There's no one entity, no one program, no one house of faith that's going to be able to solve the problem, but collectively working together, willing to pull down our barriers, bring down our barriers, and come out of our silos and begin working together and figuring it out together. I think we have a unique opportunity in this community like never before to be able to do that. The mere presence of all these individuals who are here today and here on this panel demonstrates what work this community has been doing, the work that we're doing now, and the exciting thing is the work that's coming forward. And so I'm encouraged by all that I see, all that I hear, in spite of what I do see. Because I see on a regular basis a lot of times of the ills of our society in terms of what you see right in our community. But I also see young men and young women who have a deep desire for learning, who want to do something different, who want to come out of the environment that they're in. They just need a chance and they need a hand up so that they can have an opportunity to stand on their own. And I think that we have an opportunity to be able to do that today, and that's why I'm excited about the partnerships and the collaborations that's been taking place, and even what's taking place on today.
Thank you. Pastor James is going to transition over to kind of have a positive call to action for the community, and then after that, Pastor James, we will kind of refer back to Joe Tolan and Dr. Hargis. Anyone else, or Joe Tolan and Dr. Hargis, to have maybe some comments and reflect on what we've done so far. But Pastor James is going to have a call to action, a positive call to action.
Once again, I have an opportunity to be able to call this charge to action and what we believe is going to take place after we leave here. Because we've seen and heard from an incredible man of faith, an incredible man, Principal L, share with us and excite us and share us and motivate us to be able to think beyond where we've been in the past. There's a quote that is often shared that expresses the idea that general prosperity is best for all individual welfare. And when I share this quote with you, it may come to your remembrance. And the quote is simply this: a rising tide raises all the boats. And however, the rising tide does not lift all the boats, particularly those boats that are stuck at the bottom of the sea. For the boats that are stuck at the bottom of the sea, there's a misery index. And the challenge for us that we have to begin to look at is looking at the challenge of the boats that are stuck at the bottom. How do we get them up and how do we lift them? And I think we all aware of the struggles in our communities and in this community in particular. But as we focus on solutions, what are those solutions? What can we begin to do? Principal L has offered some solutions for us in the work that he's been doing and sharing across the country, and how he's been engaging communities and community partners and leaders coming together to rise to the top. And as I shared before, I think we have an incredible opportunity, unlike before, that we have to be able to seize this moment. And that is, too often we become frustrated in doing this work. But I want to encourage you to embrace the frustration, because frustration is simply a sign that your brain is looking for an answer, looking for a solution. And I want to encourage you to embrace that frustration, to look for the opportunities. Because when you begin to look for the opportunities, as you are going through the process of that frustration leads to hope. Because it's your brain is seeking for answers, and hope leads to opportunity. And when opportunity seized, it leads to change. There's a story told of a shoe company in the 1930s that sent a salesperson to a third world country. And when he was there for 2 weeks, he wrote a letter back home saying, "Send me home, nobody here wears shoes." So they sent him back, brought him back home, and after that, the company decided to send another salesman there. And when they sent the second salesman there, he was there after 2 weeks. He said, "Send me all the shoes that you have, because nobody here wears shoes." And I believe we have that kind of opportunity to be able to seize the moment of where we are today and what we need to begin to do, because we have an opportunity to put shoes on everyone who are stuck at the bottom, that we have an opportunity that they can rise to the top and stand on their own 2 feet. But the question is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with the information that you heard? What are you going to do with the ideas that have been expressed? Because the reality is that you can't control the outside world, but you can't control the inner world. You can't control the events that happen in life, but you can control what they mean to you. So you have to, and we have to, develop a vision that is so strong and so compelling that inspires us to stay focused on doing the work daily. And here's some things I want to challenge you with and leave you with that you can take home with you, because the first question is, what you heard Principal L talk about, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do in applying it in your life? Decide exactly what you're going to do with what you heard. And after you decide exactly what you're going to do with what you heard, write it down. Write it down today. Before you go home, while you're in your car, write down what you're going to do. Then set a deadline as to when you're going to do it. That you're not just going to set an arbitrary wish of a thing happening, but you're going to set a deadline that this is exactly what I'm going to do with what I heard, and I'm going to believe is going to happen. And then make a list of everything that needs to be considered for you to be able to achieve what you're going to achieve. Make a list of the obstacles that you're going to encounter. Make a list of the skills and the knowledge that you're going to need to be able to achieve the goal. And then make a list of the people that you're going to need to connect with to make it happen. And then who are the people that I need to have in my space now so that we are able to overcome these challenges. And number 5, do something every day, until you accomplish your goal, until you accomplish what Principal L talked about in affecting the changes of the young people's lives that we encounter on a daily basis. And as you do that daily, inch by inch, yard by yard is hard, but inch by inch is essential. You can accomplish what God has placed inside of you. And what we want to talk about today, I want to take this time now to thank Principal L for coming to this city and sharing with us and inspiring us. Let's give him another round of applause. Because truly he is a superstar educator. We want to thank Metro United Way for hosting this and JCPS for collaborating and bringing all of us together. Because we come in this space together to be able to hear, to learn, but we have to lead to be able to go and do the work. And that's where we all want to be, in the field. And I love what Chief Reynolds talked about, that these events, she's challenged by them, but yet she's here because she realizes what has to take place. But what really takes place is what's going to happen when we hit the streets. What's going to happen when you go back to your classroom? What's going to happen when you go back to your school? What's going to happen when you go back to your home and your neighborhood and your community? Will it remain the same, or will it be different because of the encounter and the time that we had to spend in this space? So I want to now thank everyone who came here today, thank all of the students, the principals, all of you who come from the community to be a part of this experience that we all had a time to share. Now we can leave reinvigorated by the power of what we know that's inside of us, and that is the will to make a difference. And when we will something, it will take place. Thank you.
We're going to end with our definitely two community champions, Dr. Hargins and Joe Tolan.
It's been inspiring, and I want to recognize the Superintendent's Advisory Council who are here. They keep us centered, that students are the center of the universe, but their success rests on the platform of a three-legged stool, and we've seen that demonstrated. The school, the community, and the family working together to have a strong platform so that every child in JCPS can be successful. So thank you all for being here. Joe.
Principal L, I promise to credit you at least half the time. One of the things you said that really caught me was that if it doesn't challenge you, it can't change you. And I believe that we each have an obligation to one another, and that is to engage in constructive conflict. I think that's the pathway to self-improvement. I think that's the pathway also to getting better results for our youth. And I believe that that's the pathway to making this a stronger community for the long term and for generations to come. So, you know, there are lots of other things that struck me. One other one I'm going to toss out there is that you talked about the importance of people in administrative or leadership positions of being, I think of it as being vulnerable, being willing to admit that that we mess up sometimes and that we don't get things right sometimes. And that causes me to think about something I like to say, and that is that I don't really think perfection is a goal. In fact, I think it can unintentionally be an obstacle to continuous learning and improvement. So those of you out there that are kind of perfectionists, you can relax a little bit, you know, and think a little differently about that. So I know we've done it before, but I want to ask you one more time to join me in thanking Principal L and our panelists. And I want to thank you. You've been a fabulous audience. You're a great group of people, students, teachers, principals, staff, everybody have made this a terrific gathering. I believe, as I believe you do, that as a community, we can change the odds for all of our most challenged youth. Have a great day.